Welcome back to my channel. This week I'm bringing you another Cook with G. But before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up so that way we can keep on growing. Now this week's cookbook is Comida, Típica, Costa Rica, which translates to the typical food of Costa Rica. Now I actually picked this cookbook up last time I was in Costa Rica in the airport, and I was just looking for a cookbook that was no frills. It seemed like it had recipes that people made at home or that they grew up making, because I was just looking to maybe replicate some of the dishes that I've had on my different trips to Costa Rica, which if you are looking for more Costa Rica content, I actually filmed a video last time I was there and I'll leave that link down below. But vamos cocinar ticos. Alright, our first recipe is Gallo Pinto, which translates to spotted rooster. And I actually have a print of this recipe, or a depiction of this recipe, hanging in my apartment. And I thought it was pretty cool. I saw it in the airport and then I went home and looked the artist up and purchased it myself. I will totally link the artist down below if I can find their website. It's a pretty cool print. I also have another one that's of Costa Rica by that same artist. If you happen to be interested in Costa Rican art, I don't know if they do anymore, but I'll link the website down for you to check out. So this recipe, like I said, translates to spotted rooster. There's no rooster in it, there are no spots. It is a classic rice and beans that's often eaten for breakfast. That's at least the times I would have it when I was in Costa Rica. It was often served for breakfast. So we've got all of our ingredients here. Also, I want to note, if you were, paying attention closely, this whole cookbook is in Spanish, which is, again, something I was kind of looking for. I figured I would figure it out when I get home because I don't speak Spanish. I don't know Spanish. I've taken a few years of it here and there, but it by no means a pro. So hopefully any pronunciation I say in this video is as good as can be. But basically, I just used a app, just Google Translate, and you can take a picture of it and then you're able to get a translation of it, and I looked up any extra words as needed. So I'll insert some photos of what it looks like so that way you can kind of see, what comes up based on what is in the book. But our first step is actually going to be to chop up our pepper and our onion and a little bit of cilantro, and we're making what's similar to, or maybe that is what it is, it's like a sofrita, just a little blend of flavors that we're going to heat in the pan with a little bit of oil to get our gallo pinto started. It doesn't require very much pepper or very much onion. That's why it kind of reminded me of a sofritas. I also was on a website I think it's called Pure Vida Mom, but it's basically a woman who I believe her husband is Costa Rican. I'm not sure if she is, and she had a couple notes about making gallo pinto and other things, so I was trying to just cross-reference a few things to make sure that my translations were accurate. So it says you only need 1 tablespoon of, they said sweet chili, and I remember last time when I was looking it up, and this time as well, that it seems like that is really just a red pepper that's not a bell pepper. And then for the onion, you really didn't need a lot. Now I'll also leave the resource that I had found online of the website where the woman had provided a bunch of Costa Rican dishes if you were curious about it, because I had gone on there to kind of just learn more about what can I find in America versus, how to recreate it correctly or as accurately as I can without actually being in Costa Rica. And I felt like it was a pretty helpful website with a lot of good recipes. And the last bit is cilantro. But this is a rice dish, and you always use day-old rice. When I was reading on the website that had a bunch of Costa Rican recipes, she was saying that her husband had mentioned a lot of times it's day-old rice because it would take way too long to make rice and then make beans and then make this dish, which I thought was interesting. But I know that there's also probably some science behind like the rice being a little dried out, so sauteing it in a pan would give a better texture for sure. But I thought that was a little funny. I feel like as of this past year, I have been very much into having rice with breakfast. I don't know what it was, but I just feel like I wake up and I want rice. And I'm not always like that, but when I want it, I'm like, that sounds really, really good. So I'm excited to make this. I think maybe on the website or in the cookbook, I was reading recently that gallo pinto is, often served with or as breakfast, but if you have it with dinner, then you would just maybe serve it with a meat or a different protein other than eggs or typical cheese that you find in Costa Rica. Now I need to check my recipe on my phone. Unfortunately, I don't have the translation memorized, so I have to constantly go back and check to make sure that what I have done is perfectly accurate, which could be a good or bad thing because we know that I have a bad track record of accuracy, I would say. But you know, we all make mistakes, especially when the recipe is in another language. So now we are going to turn our pan on and we're gonna add a little bit of oil. I'm just gonna use avocado oil because this is neutral and it doesn't specify and I don't want anything to change the flavor. So we're just gonna go 1, 2. Okay, so we're gonna start with adding our pepper and our onion into the pan. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to add are some beans. Now, it just says 2 cups of black beans, so I'm just gonna add a can, which is about 2 cups. However, I am like very, very sure they mean a fresh pot of beans that you prepared the day before. And I don't think they're referring to just a can of beans, which I think will work fine taste-wise. But if anyone has any traditional ways to prepare beans typical to Costa Rica, I didn't really see any just like beans recipes in the cookbook, probably because I would assume most people probably just know how to make a good pot of beans. I would be curious making beans from scratch. I've never done it before, so if anyone has any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna strain this and add it to the pot. That's not a pot. Add it to the pan. In go the beans. Probably would have helped if I just made exactly 3 cups of cooked rice, but that would have been too smart. Got 1 cup going in. Now let's start mixing. It says just to cook the rice, mix it around for a couple more minutes before we add the final stuff. Okay, so now time to talk about the sauce. So we have some Worcestershire sauce and some Tabasco sauce. Now the recipe actually does say Tabasco. They even put like the little branded, like you want to use Tabasco sauce. Now the Worcestershire sauce I know is a translation because even when I look in my print, I know that that's not what this is. What they're referring to is something called, I believe, salsa lanza. Lanza. I'll put a photo on screen. It's a specific sauce that's used in Gallo Pinto, and it is just what makes it Gallo Pinto. However, apparently Worcestershire sauce can be a good substitution. It's a similar taste and like texture and things like that. So that's what I'm gonna use today. But if you're curious about it, I can also link it down below because it seems like you can get on Amazon. It just seems a little bit more expensive than if you were in Costa Rica. So next time I'm there, I might have to get myself a bottle so that way I can make it with the correct sauce. But I think that this will be a good substitution, especially because that's what the direct translation said. So we're gonna give it a go. Okay, so we're doing half a tablespoon of each. Feels like a lot of Tabasco. Okay, and then it says just to mix everything well. And we're gonna add the coriander in too. Just cilantro. Okay, let's try it. This makes me so happy. Okay, so it obviously is bringing back a lot of memories and it does have the same taste and flavors that I remember when I was in Costa Rica having it. Now, obviously, I've spent a whole total of 2 weeks in my life in Costa Rica. By no means have I lived there, but I ate a lot of Gallo Pinto when I was there. And this tastes just like I remember. I am curious to get my hands on the sauce that is referenced or that's like typically in Gallo Pinto because I'm curious to see how the flavor compares. I would say Worcestershire sauce is a pretty fair comparison. I was a little worried that the measurements, only half a tablespoon was going to be enough for all of the rice. I think it's pretty good. Obviously, like, this is not my recipe. I was using a translation. I'm sure I could have made a mistake. I'm sure other people have used different recipes or had different measurements in their version of it, but this tastes fairly similar. I think a lot has to do with the cilantro and the pepper and the onions kind of just bringing together with the rice all fried up, and it is comforting and delicious. I will also say the direct translation said that you can serve it with custard, and I double checked and it definitely translated to custard. Now I think they're referring to like cheese, because there's a farmer's cheese that they often served with this, and I don't remember the name off the top of my head. I can put it on the screen if I can find it. I am pretty sure you cannot find it in America, because I remember looking into it, but it reminded me kind of like a farmer's cheese. I don't know if that's specifically what it was, or I don't even remember like what type of milk it's made out of, but it's delicious. I also think in the photo in the cookbook, it looked like maybe they were serving it with like a sour cream or something of that sort. However, one pairing that is very typical and is in the print that I own is eggs. This is often eaten with just 2 sunny side up eggs, or however you want your eggs cooked, and it's a great combination for breakfast. And honestly, I need to make this for breakfast more, because like I said, rice is a game changer in the morning, at least for me. Okay, next recipe. Okay, our next recipe is Huevos con tortilla. So that's just eggs and tortillas. And I've seen variations of this before, but I have never made it from a Costa Rican cookbook, or I never had it in Costa Rica either. So I'm very curious about it. Now the only hiccup with this recipe is that it serves 4 and I'm gonna cut it down to serve 1. However, that shouldn't be a problem because it's 4 eggs, comes down to 1 egg. Yet it says to use 1 package of tortillas, which they're saying is 12 tortillas. Now I would assume it's not like what I have here. I don't think they're putting 3 of this size with 1 egg. So I'm thinking I'm either gonna use half or just 1 tortilla for 1 egg and see how that goes. But the other confusing thing is there aren't that many instructions, which is fine. We can, you know, try our best, but they do have this snazzy little photo that makes it look like almost like a frittata. So I can't even fathom really how they get to that, because, well, you'll see the instructions. Okay, we're gonna take our tortillas. I think I'm gonna try using 1 and then see if when I'm making the egg or incorporating it all, if it seems like too much. I don't think it'll be too much. So it's said to cut into 1-inch pieces. So I'm just gonna do my best. I have no idea if there is really a method to this madness. If anyone has made something similar to this, do let me know though. I was very curious about the idea of just tortillas mixed with egg fried up, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm a big breakfast person, I'm a big egg person, as you guys know, and now you know my secret that I have a breakfast recipe with eggs as a print hanging in my home. That's how much I love breakfast food, and actually, that's how much I love Costa Rican food too. So, if anyone has made this who is from Costa Rica or has had this in Costa Rica, I'm curious about the accuracy of like me following this recipe, but I'm also just curious in general if anyone has any, you know, recipes that are similar to this with eggs and tortillas. It seems pretty simple, but I think I have a friend who has made something similar. I'm curious if this process is the same. Okay, so now we have our pieces, and now we are going to heat our pan, melt the butter in the pan. Okay, the butter is melting and foaming. I'm gonna turn the heat down, toss our tortillas in, get them all coated in the butter. So like I said, the instructions, very sparse on this one. Now I do feel like, I think maybe there's just no wrong way to do it. And now that I have this in here, I'm also thinking that maybe it looked like a frittata, because when you put the egg in, it will just kind of like coat and make like an omelet. Which the translation did just say, I think it said egg with omelet, which is probably a little bit off, because obviously tortilla is not omelet, but I thought that was curious because it does look like an omelet in the photo. So we will see once these are all crisped up. Okay, so these are now pretty crisped up, so I'm gonna go ahead and crack my egg into a bowl. Just whisk that. All right, so we've got our egg. We're gonna pour that in, turn the heat down a little bit. I'm gonna do a pinch of salt, some black pepper, and it said just cook to desired doneness. Okay, I think that it's done. It just says to cook to your desired doneness. It doesn't look like a frittata like in the photo, so I wonder if when you make it with a bunch more tortilla and 4 eggs if it's different, but 4 eggs doesn't feel like enough for 12 tortillas to get the frittata type of look, but I still think it looks good, so let's try it. All right, here we go. I'll admit, I know I was like expecting frittata because of the, you know, black and white photo, but this looks right and it smells really good. Oh yeah, that's delicious. It's just so simple. I really didn't do that much. All I did was cut the tortilla up, fry it a little first in some butter, and then throw the egg in. I could see that like if you did use more than 1 egg or like less tortilla per egg, then you could get like an omelet, which I feel like would also be kind of nice, especially if you're someone who likes to top your eggs. Like if you wanted to put some salsa or avocado or cilantro or something on top. But just for like something very quick and easy, this is amazing. Sorry, I'm speechless. But I am curious if you've made something similar to this or if you've had this before, because I just am wondering about that photo. Like it looked like a frittata, so I'm wondering if there are other variations of it where you use more eggs or less tortilla or things like that. But I think my instincts were right. I don't think you can really mess this one up. You just gotta fry the tortilla up a little bit, add some eggs, and enjoy. Okay, so our last recipe is kind of from the cookbook. Basically, there's a whole page about the frescos, which if you don't know anything about Costa Rica, they have a lot of fruit. They love their fruit. They love their fruit juices and their fresh juice. And this page kind of discusses about how they often have a different juice every day with lunch or their meals. And I was going to make this recipe. However, it calls for a red syrup. I don't know what that is, and I don't know where to find it. So as I was reading the page, it basically said that to make any of their fresh juice, you just need a fruit of choice. Pineapple is one that I picked because it was mentioned on the page, but also when I went to Costa Rica for the first time, I had pineapple juice as the first thing that I had in Costa Rica, which was purely because that was the first thing that was served to me, the first place that we stopped, and I didn't like pineapple. And then I had fresh pineapple juice, and now I love pineapple. Kind of a silly story, but as a result, it makes me think of Costa Rica. And you just pretty much blend it with some sugar and some water, and we're gonna serve it over ice. And that is what I'm going to do to make my fresco. So let's go. Okay, so it does say to blend it, so I'm just gonna take my blender cup and some pineapple. This is not, you know, as fresh as if we were in Costa Rica, but hopefully the addition of a little bit of sugar will sweeten it up. And it did say that there is no rhyme or reason, it's just to your desired sweetness. So I'm not gonna add too much sugar, but if it happens to be a little bitter because my pineapple wasn't ripe enough, then we can always add more. It did say that pineapple is one of the fruits that you would strain when you are blending it together. However, I've already used my strainer and it is dirty with black beans. So we're gonna go with it a little chunky, and I think that that's okay. But just know that if you're gonna make some juice this way at home, they recommend straining pineapple. So I guess if you don't want pulp or any of the like woody parts, then it makes sense to just strain it. Okay, since this is just a drink for one, I'm just gonna put a teaspoon of sugar. So we've got our sugar. And it also doesn't say how much water to add. So I'm just gonna, I filled it to here, and it's time to blend. Okay, it says to serve it over crushed ice, but I only have an ice cube tray, so. Oh my goodness. Look how incredible this looks. Now I could see that like maybe straining it would be like, you know, better because it would be less thick, but oh yeah. All right, let's taste it. I don't think you needed to strain it. If you have a weak blender or you really don't want any pulp, then yeah, go ahead and strain it, but I'm not really getting much texture that I would have expected. For this pineapple not being very ripe, I would say that that little bit of sugar definitely helped. I think I'd prefer natural sugar. If you just got really ripe pineapple, then I wouldn't have to add anything to sweeten it up, but this is delicious. And in fact, that is our last recipe of the day. So let me know in the comments below if you had any recipes that you want to try. Have you had Costa Rican food before? And if you've been to Costa Rica or you're Costa Rican or you know anything about Costa Rican cuisine, definitely let me know if there's anything that I cooked today that could use some brushing up or improving, because I was working off a cookbook that is in a language I don't speak, so I am curious to see if there's anything that I can improve on, because I do love Costa Rican food and I'd love to make it more. So any tips or tricks would be greatly appreciated. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up so that way we can keep on growing, and I will be sure to catch you next time. Bye!